and I'll step back out of the way for you to do that. Before you do, Kim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute all participants. And so Kim and Bjorn, you are going to have to unmute yourselves after I do that. So I'm going to do that right now. And then Kim, you want to make sure you unmute yourself, and Bjorn, you're going to make sure you unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Fantastic. And Bjorn, let's just quickly check yours.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Fantastic. Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off, and then we'll talk to you on the flip side. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Friday. My name is Kim Barker, and I am joining you as the Vice President of the International Society for Organization Development and Change. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Roland Livingston, who is here, who is our president. The purpose of this virtual exchange is to bring our members together for a fireside chat with Bjorn Martinoff so that we can learn from his book and experiences, develop ourselves further as leaders, and learn how to tap into the exponential power that is at our fingertips. Bjorn is a global CEO coach and the author of the book, Develop Exponential Power, which was recommended reading by Harvard's most influential global leadership thinker, Marshall Goldsmith, and myself, very highly, I might add. Bjorn has nearly 20 years of experience as a coach, OD consultant, author, trainer, and facilitator. In his work, Bjorn applies insights from behavioral sciences, action learning, extensive research and development, and helps the world's greatest leaders and thinkers expand their individual and organizational capabilities and performance. Bjorn specializes in maximizing senior executive development and performance through his coaching, consulting, and training services. He focuses on coaching senior and high-performing executives and executive teams for the world's largest corporations and in various areas, including strategic planning, strategic team building, career transition, onboarding, performance, organizational development, achieving breakthrough results, and much more. Bjorn finds meaning and much success in assisting executives in building global teams that produce breakthrough results. He is passionate about accelerating his clients' personal and professional growth. With his client-centered, solution-focused, empowering, and non-judgmental coaching style, he partners with his clients in a collaborative coaching process on reflection, discovery, and taking action towards positive change and sustainable breakthroughs in performance. I'm so excited about this webinar. I would like to also thank the International Society for Organization Development and Change, or ISODC for short, for sponsoring this virtual informational exchange today. I would like to encourage you to check out the ISODC. Membership benefits include free access to the OD Journal, the most widely cited OD journal in the world, access to newsletters, webinars such as this one, events, conferences, and other collaborative opportunities from all over the world. Special student opportunities that will sharpen your skills as a student. If you are registered full-time as a student, your membership is free. Friendship and support for both scholars and practitioners in a collegial environment that will not only strengthen your practice, but also strengthen your skills. I would like to now turn this virtual information exchange back over to Jeremy, who is going to keep us on track today and keep us on task.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you.
Which is a tall order, Jeremy.
Well, thanks so much. And we really appreciate being here with you. At S&G Endeavors, we work to engage our clients in collaborative dialogue that's going to create change and take action. And Bjorn's book definitely helps us embrace power to do that. And so I'm really excited about that, and I hope each of you are as well. We have a number of participants on the phone, and we're going to do our best to make this kind of a dialogue that you're able to participate in as you need to, or a fireside chat, if you will. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the video that does fire for my laptop, so we'll promise to get that for our next one. But really excited to have each of you here with us today. Our agenda is really basically simple. We're going to turn it over to Bjorn. He has kind of broken his thoughts into a couple different areas. And so as we start to accumulate questions in your chat window, then I'll kind of help bring those questions forward, or may even call on you to unmute your line and ask those questions. Most of you are on the computer or iPhone or Droid or some type of smartphone today. For those of you who may be using the phone, you can mute and unmute your line by dialing *6. If you need to remember that, that's an M. So it's *6, unmute, *6, mutes again. Right now, everybody should be muted unless you have unmuted your line, just to help us cut down on that background noise. If you're looking at your computer screen or you're on a smartphone, you have your mute for your audio is in the bottom left-hand corner, I believe, and then right to the right of that is your video. And as you can see, I've got my video on, so it's really great to see all of you. Hope you guys are enjoying the beard. It's new. Let me know what you think. Love the beard. Well, of the beard, of the presentation. We want feedback in any way we can get it. Kim, I'm going to remind you to put yourself on mute to help us cut down on today's call.
Thank you.
Background noise. And then Bjorn, I'm going to turn it over to you and have you start walking us through your presentation and what you want to share with us. Again, to everyone on the phone and on your Zoom call today, thanks for joining us in the Zoom room. Make sure you post your questions and your comments as we're going along. I'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll make sure that we bring that into the conversation as well. So without further ado, Bjorn, why don't you kick us off, and then we'll have Bjorn go through and talk for a little bit. We may do some questions along the way, and we'll definitely save space for questions and answers at the end. Bjorn, go ahead.
Hear me well? No background noise?
Yep, we've got you fine, Bjorn. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And just
okay, actually, Bjorn, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we actually have you kind of going in and out on us again. So
okay, maybe I'll turn the video off. Shall I turn the video off?
That's what I'd like you to do, is turn off your video. Let's still go ahead and share your PowerPoint, and my apologies to our guests for the technical difficulties. Bjorn, let's go ahead and have you get started now.
Okay, very good. I turned the camera off. So just to get started, my name is Bjorn Martinoff. I'm from Germany originally, and I'm very excited to be called me to speak about my book. And I wanted her to actually open up a little bit. So Kimberly actually wrote an amazing, amazing book review about the book, and I hope you all have time to look at it. But what better way to hear about it about the book? But it's not the only thing I want to talk about. I want to also talk about what my next book's about, and you get to have a preview of that today, right? So generally speaking, I do prepare for more than we have time for, right? And I don't mind, because this is not TV. We're blessed with internet where we can interact, and you can just raise your hand, jump in, shout out, jump up and down on your chair, right? However you want to do that. I'm very happy for you to cut in, yeah. Ask about, I get kind of tired just hearing myself talk, right? So today we're gonna talk about, and the other one is leadership. Yeah? and the two actually do overlap. Right? So it all started with myself. Okay, my computer's a little slow here. It all started with myself. That's
so
my
Bjorn,
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you, and I think we're gonna have to just kind of play this as we go because it looks like you're having some internet difficulties.
Okay.
Something that we did not anticipate. So tell us the two pieces. We caught the leadership. What was the first piece? And then go back into what you were saying.
It was power, right? So the two pieces.
Oh, this is not good, folks. I'm so sorry
Leadership.
that we are experiencing difficulties. So Bjorn, we're just going to have to keep trying this, and if it doesn't work, we may need to actually redo this webinar. But please try again for us, Bjorn. You're cutting out about every sentence, every other sentence.
Dial in, like a phone number, or is this?
Yeah, I can actually give you a phone number if you are able to dial in. I think that might actually
phone number in
be.
the email, the 646 number.
Yeah. Would it be possible? So with your folks' permission, I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. I want to take a 2-minute siesta. Bjorn, please call in on that phone number. We've got to fix your mic issue.
Yeah, Jeremy, it seems to have gotten a little better. So
Kim, I'm going to have him call in so that we can fix the issue.
okay.
So Bjorn, we're going to be waiting by, or standing by. In the meantime, while we're waiting, does anybody have any questions that I might be able to answer while we're waiting for Bjorn to call back in and continue his presentation? Does anyone have any questions that I might be able to answer about ISODC, member benefits, or things that may be coming up at ISODC that you'd like to get more information about? And I'm just kind of killing a little bit of time while we're waiting. So if you don't have anything, that's totally fine. Just thought I'd keep you entertained.
Well, Jeremy, if I could share that the website, the web address to the ISODC is just that, the letters, isodc.org. So if folks want to go there and you know, check out the organization, that would be great.
Awesome.
We do have a couple of events coming up. Actually, next month, Jeremy is hosting a roundtable event, which happens the first Tuesday of the month, and it's on the even months. Is that correct, Jeremy?
It's going to happen the first. It's going to happen the first Tuesday of every even month.
Okay.
And so that's going to be at 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern. We do have 2 installments. We're actually considering 1, and I'd be interested if people feel that there's a good time that might work for everybody. So Bjorn, it sounds like we may have gotten you in on the phone.
No, it was a bad connection.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Hold on, I'll try a different way.
Okay. I'm so sorry for the delay, folks. And
I can hear Bjorn just fine now.
I understand that, Kim. It's a consistency thing, so it comes and goes.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to actually resolve it. And I'm so sorry, folks, when we did the test the other day, this did not happen. And so sometimes that's how that works. So if you are wanting to turn on your video, it looks like a video camera on the left, and it'll say start video or start camera. If it is off, it'll say start video, and if it's on, it'll say end video. We did have a couple people who had asked.
This meeting is being recorded. You are muted.
All right, so we're gonna fix the problem here. Bjorn, I need you to dial *6 on your phone so that we get you unmuted.
Okay.
And then I need you to mute your computer.
Okay. How about now? How is this?
Hold on, we've got to get you muted here.
I'm muted on the computer.
Okay,
But there's an
Bjorn,
echo.
do you have us on? Do you have us on on speakerphone?
Yeah, I'm on a cell phone.
The volume on your computer.
Yeah, it's a speakerphone. Do I turn the speaker off?
Yeah, what I need you to do, Bjorn, is I need you to turn down the volume on your computer.
Okay. All right, I've done that.
All right. I think
How about now? How is it now?
I think we are good. My recommendation, though, is you may want to take us off of speakerphone, but I'll leave that up to you. I am so sorry for the confusion, folks, and for the delay. Bjorn, you got to turn your computer as far down as you can, and you're going to have to take us off speakerphone, buddy. I'm sorry.
I'm off speakerphone already.
Wow. I love technology too, Kim. All right, I think we're going to just have to go with this. I'm going to ask everybody to make sure you're muted. We're going to see how well we can make this work. I'm so sorry. So go ahead and continue with your presentation, Bjorn, and we'll see how this goes.
All right, so I'm going to start talking, and maybe Kimberly, you can give me a thumbs up because of my volume's down so low now that I cannot hear you anymore. Yeah, Kimberly, thumbs up. Speak louder. Yes.
Speak a little bit louder, Bjorn.
Okay, I'm going to hold the phone closer to my mouth.
There you go. Now we got you. That's
like
where
that?
I need you to be, right there. All right. Without further ado, folks, let's turn it over to Bjorn. And I want to thank everybody so much for your patience during the technology challenges. Go ahead, Bjorn.
All right, all right. So again, this is my name. It's a Swedish first name, a Russian Germanized last name. I'm a global conference speaker, CEO, coach, and breakthrough results catalyst. I also write some books for fun. Right? This is my company name. This is a brief history, and I'm just going to fly through that while we're waiting for some other people to sign on. No? What if rapid transformation was really possible? In OD, we talk about that. How do we make transformation possible, but also how do we make it fast? And what if you could take like a rather dull executive team, even though maybe not so dull these days, and make it exciting, enthusiastic, and hyper effective? Very early in my career, I worked with several Mercedes-Benz teams, and afterwards, I asked them to sort of represent what did it look like before we had this workshop, right? And this is what they gave me. What it looked like before: two guys on the left, they're okay, but the other three, they're on each other's throats. And then afterwards, that's what it looks like. They said, right, according to them. Good. So before and after rapid transformation. Here we have a quick overview of my general clients. You see, we work with a lot of multinational global companies. Some of the biggest, most famous names tend to be on here. We also work with the pharma industry and the BPO industry, that's business process outsourcing, maybe not as famous in the US as in Asia right now, as well as in banking and finance, client base, and some charities. This is my book. I said earlier that the topic today is about power, and specifically exponential power, and I'll go into what that really means. What the topic today can be a bit radical, maybe to some, maybe to others not. Just be open, and if I may be authentic with you, and may have your permission to be authentic, that would be really great. I want to be straightforward. And the purpose really is today for me to share with you my passion about building leadership and power, and distribute that knowledge as far and wide as I can in my lifetime. So there is a difference between what's popular and what may be known as cutting edge.
right? And it's easy to get confused between the two. Yeah. Many times people think that what's popular actually is cutting edge, but it isn't. Yeah. Usually, what's popular today is already quite aged. Yeah. For example, let me give you a couple examples. Currently, I don't know what's popular in the US right now, but what's popular in Asia is the strengths-based frameworks, where we look at strengths more so than weaknesses, right? And that really hit the chord here, and it's very popular. It's really accelerating now. But when we look at when in time this originated, it was in the 1970s, right? In the 1970s, this idea originated. That means that idea today is 47 years old, right? That's a lot. Another one that people still talk about is situational leadership, and I researched that as well. And that book was written in 1984, which makes situational leadership 33 years old. No longer situational leadership would have been cutting edge in 1984. And strengths-based frameworks would have been cutting edge in 1970, you know. So when I saw that, I said, well, I better hurry up sharing these new things that I know, right? Because I'm already 56 years old, and some of you, fortunately, are much younger than me. So I hope you take these things and spread them far and wide, because I only have so much life left in this body, you know. So this is the book that happened to be recommended by Marshall Goldsmith, who is one of the greatest leadership coaches in the world today, and one of the most famous ones, at least. And he was one of the Thinkers 50 Award winners. So why did I write this book? I grew up extremely shy, and I would have never guessed, being a teenager, that I would do what I do today. Because as a young adult, if I had to speak to more than one person, speaking to two people already, I would be stuttering. I know this is hard to imagine right now, because I'm not stuttering right now, unless I haven't noticed it, no? I had to, at some point, decide, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'll find a way out of here. But because nobody had a solution for my stuttering, for my insecurity, for my shyness, I had to go out and find things. I had to find my path. I had to find my own journey. And I had to find ways of overcoming that. It was a huge challenge in my life, and it's a huge challenge for many people I've discovered along the way. And most people are actually dealing with some level of fear, insecurity, anxiety, or stress. You know, if you've noticed, stress and anxiety are sort of fancy names for fear. You know, it's kind of like, this allows us to express that we have fear without saying fear, you know. So when I was on this journey to discover my own power, I was looking for power. I was reading books about power. And when I read these books on power, right, I saw something, you know. I discovered what these books are talking about left me unsettled. It didn't leave me satisfied. It actually left me sleepless at night. Yeah, and I didn't like that. I didn't like what I read. I read about manipulation. I read about trickery. I read about how to cheat people, right? And I didn't sleep well with that. You know, I said, how can that be powerful if I cannot feel good about it? Yeah, if I don't feel good about it, how can that be power? I said, this cannot be power. And yet, these are books that sell in the millions, right? That talk about trickery, cheating, manipulation as if it was power. I said, there's got to be something else. And sooner than later, it dawned on me, this was not power at all. This was something else that I call force. Yeah, force is something different from power, but in the world, we think it's the same. You know, we have sayings like, may the force be with you, right? That will make us think that force is something positive, yeah? But when I ask people, and said, if I force you to do something, or somebody forces you to do something, how do you feel about that? 99% of the people say, I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good about being forced. Yeah? And then I said, that is great. Now, tell me, what happens to your energy when somebody forces you to do something? And then 100% of the people said, my energy goes down. Right? I said, wow, I think we're onto something here. Yeah, if force, by definition, lowers energy, right? Now we're starting to distinguish between power and force as something different rather than something that's the same or that overlaps or has gray areas. No, force is lowering energy. Yeah, so then I asked myself, what then is power? What if power was the opposite? What if power was increasing energy rather than decreasing energy? Yeah, and so I started looking for ways of increasing power, myself and for others, right? And this is how I came up with the book, Exponential Power. There's 28 ways of increasing your energy, right? Your own energy and that of people working with you. Yeah. And so that became the differentiating factor. Yeah. There's a difference between power and force. Yeah. Force lowers energy and power increases it. Yeah. So if that is true, as I'm working with leaders and managers, right, how does that now apply to my work? How does it apply to organization development? Yeah. I said, management, where does it fall? Power or force? Leadership, where does it fall? Power or force? Any opinions here? Well, feel free to raise your hand. I started asking people. I started asking audiences. I asked thousands of people, in audiences over many years. Right? I said, force, where is it? Management or leadership? Yeah. Every single audience, every single person said, force is on the side of management, or management's on the side of force. Right? And then I said, okay, power, where is it? Leadership, power, is it leadership or management? And people said it's leadership. Right? So that was a powerful insight. So first, we distinguished power from force as something separate, as something different, not the same, right? Because when we confuse power and force, that confusion goes into other areas as well, like leadership and management. So, but when we see that management's more on the side of force and leadership's more on the side of power, then we can ask new questions. Yeah, we can ask, for example, this question: if force lowers energy and management is force, with force lowering energy, can we then, in the future, afford to have management? Can we afford it? Can we afford to lower the energy of our people? And if we continue to afford that, how much does that cost us? Cost to lowering the energy of our people. Let's say you're not a strong manager or a gentle manager, and the energy only gets decreased by 10%. What does that cost? There's an operational cost to that. There's a cost to the results. There's a cost to the breakthroughs that get created or not get created. Now, with a stronger manager, with a more forceful manager, this may be much higher. This may be 30, 50, 70%. Sometimes I can tell as soon as I walk into an office if there is someone ruling with power or someone ruling with force. And within 3 seconds, I can pick up the energy in that office. And I know immediately where that's at. Immediately. It's very easy. You pick up that energy. Once you're aware of it and to train yourself to notice it. Yeah. Any questions so far? No? But again, feel free to stop me anytime. I know I talk fast because there's a lot of ground to cover, and then we want to still have some Q&A time at the end. So it's okay to wait till the end or raise your hand in the meantime. Yeah? So there's only 2 reasons any business will grow, right? I noticed when the market grows, business tends to grow, right? Then the other option is we grow, we get better, right? So the market gets better or we get better or both, right? That's the only way business grows. Yeah. But the market doesn't just get better all the time anymore, and we've noticed that, right? Ever since the GFC, the global financial crisis, the market has gone in an up and down mode. You know, it's like a constant up and down, constant, like it's waves in an ocean. You know, and so we better learn how to surf these waves. And when the market doesn't get better, yeah, then we better learn how to get better. You know, we have to learn how to get better for ourselves. You know, so that we can step up and make up for what the market may have lost. You know? Yeah. So how do we get better now, right? Are we human beings or are we human doings? Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah. What is the difference? So as a coach, I'm also a coach. Yeah, I've studied motivation, I've studied inspiration since 1993. Yeah. I started very early. I started as an in-house trainer at Mercedes-Benz. I decided to make that full-time after a while. You know? But as a coach, I work in 3 realms. What's a realm? A realm is an area or a space, right, or a container. Yeah? So what are the 3 realms? Any ideas what those 3 realms may be? Any of you? No? Okay.
Give us a hint, Bjorn.
Yes?
Give us a hint with the first one.
Okay. So the first realm, let me see if my slide here works. Okay, so here's the hint. First realm is doing. No hints, no ideas.
Newell,
Yeah, so you're not alone.
Newell shared with us that
Yes.
the next one might be being.
Yes. So thanks, Kimberly. I know you read my book, so I know you know all the answers.
Actually, I want to also recognize Janet, who just put being, having in there. So clearly,
Very good.
Janet has read the book.
Oh, he has read the book. Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. So doing is the first one, right? And we're quite familiar with what that is. So the other one then is having, right? And we're quite familiar with that too. So now what is having? Having is the outcome we want to achieve, right? Or the things we need in order to achieve the outcome that help us do what we need to do in order to have and achieve and get what we want to get, right? So whether it's personal goals or company goals or global goals, there's something you want to achieve. So that's having, in simple terms. So when I work with teams, I put them through a challenge, right? And then I debrief them, and I ask them, what is it that worked? I don't tell them these 3 realms beforehand. I just go ahead and ask them, what worked, right? And this is the answers that one particular team came up with. Very, very detailed. And I always ask them to put that into a 1-word answer, if possible. So here, on average, they come up with about 40 answers before we stop it, because we want to have a good representation of what really worked. And then I introduce the three realms, doing and having and being. And then I have to explain what being means. Being is a feeling. Being is an emotion, right? And often one thing can sound like a doing or a being, and sometimes it's both. And that's also okay. Yeah, but then I ask them to break it down for each one of these 4D, and I ask them to say, which one is it? Is it being, or is it doing or having? Like when you see right on top, there's courage. What is that? Being, doing, or having? Right? And courage is more being than anything else. Right? More being than anything else. Now we can also say having courage, but there's a difference between having courage and being courage. When I have courage, I can have a little bit, I can have a handful, or my whole self can represent being, right? Being courage. And that's the most powerful one, when we're being courage rather than having courage. Like a sprinkle of courage is not the same as when I'm being courage. Right? So what's powerful is the being. So we break it down, right? So we ask each item, what is it? Being, doing, or having, and so then I count. And in this case, doing was 12 items. And having was 11. Usually it's even less, right? But when we talk at work about achieving anything, we always ask, what do we need to do so we can have these results, right? But we don't talk about being, We never talk about who do we need to be in order to achieve these results. It doesn't happen, right? We don't talk about courage, right? We don't talk about teamwork, maybe a little bit, or passion, or patience, or being hungry, right? Or determined, or harmony, or synergy, or strength, or integrity, or excitement, or motivation, right? Diversity. We very rarely talk about these things. Maybe once a year when we talk about values. So how many did we have? We had 21 beingnesses. Yeah? And then I say, what's important here? Right? What is important here? Is it the doing? Is it the having? And people then start to see, and a light bulb goes on. Being is very important. Right? But we never talk about it. In most organizations, we just don't talk about it.
Hey, Bjorn.
And that's already a huge aha for people. So there's three realms: being, doing, and having. And then I asked myself an interesting question. I said, what if I can turn that into a formula? Now, what if I could turn being, doing, and having into a mathematical formula? What would be the outcome? And eventually people say having is the outcome, right? And then that means it's on one side of the equal sign. Then being and doing would have to be on the other side of the equal sign. And then I say, what is the mathematical relationship between being and doing? And then people will wonder, what are the options? I say, well, it's plus, minus, multiply, or divide, right? Which one? And then most of the time somebody will say, oh, it's plus, right? But can it be plus? If I do nothing, what's the likely outcome? Nothing, right? If I do nothing, the likely outcome is nothing, right? But being plus nothing is not nothing, it's being, right? So it shouldn't be plus. Everybody following? Mathematics tends to be not so popular in OD and HR. So
hey,
I kept it simple. Yeah. So then what
Bjorn,
came out?
this is Jeremy.
Yes, hi Jeremy.
And I'm thinking that maybe let's come to a little bit of a stopping point. We can pull in some conversations. Okay. I thought you might be at that, but I can give you a couple more minutes if you need to wrap up this section. I thought you were done there. So is this a
part of the section? So yeah.
Oh.
after this one, we can take questions anytime. I'm always busy.
Yeah, so Bjorn, we're going to actually, while we're giving Kim just a second to gather her thoughts on bringing in some of the chat messages, I also want to try to fix your audio just a little bit because I'm getting a lot of concerns about it. So, so try, I know that it's difficult because you're holding the phone, but you really want to try to keep the phone just a tad away from your mouth so that you're not muffled. And we can actually hear you when you're talking. Sometimes you're getting a little muffled. And I know that it's difficult, it's annoying. Kim, why don't you bring us some of the highlights from our chat conversation? In the meantime, if you've got a question for Bjorn, you can click the raise hand button, or you could just unmute your line and I'll come to you in just a moment to take a couple questions. Bjorn.
And Jeremy, it's Kim. Could you remind us where the raise hand is?
Hold on just a second, Kim. I got to actually grab a picture. Okay. Only because I'm logged in a different panel. So give me 10 seconds and I'll find that. But Kim, give us some of the highlights from the conversation.
So we've had a lot of conversation. South Africa has confirmed that they are ahead of many parts of the world in the chat. But there have been a couple of comments about having courage. So how can you have the courage to be the change in a situation that is less than desirable? So that is one thing that was brought up. And another item that is actually a question I have is, how do you create that vision of where you're trying to go?
Okay, so you want me to answer that?
Yeah, so I guess first of all, how do you be the change? And then how do you work to create that vision? Yes.
So how do you be the change? Very simple. You choose it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's really you have the choice, and it is your choice, and nobody can take that away from you, right? You can choose the change, or you can choose not to change, right? That is always yours. And even people sometimes may tell you to change, right? In the end, it's still your choice, right? Because you can always choose to walk away, right? And you could do that, right? So the danger in feeling forced is that it disempowers you, right? When we feel forced, that's going to lower your energy, right? So if you choose it, then don't choose it because you're told to, but choose it because you want to.
So Bjorn, can I ask you another question? So Sandy brought up, how can you get others to follow the change?
Yeah, involve them in creating the change.
Okay.
You know, if the more you involve people in the vision and in the purpose, or call it mission. Some people still call it mission. I'm not a big fan of mission. I'm more of a fan of purpose, and have them be part of creating that. Because if they are part of that, then they have a voice in that vision's creation. Now, if you don't have them part of that, they will resist it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have not yet been heard, right? People cannot accept anything until they've been heard first. You know, and the one way to do that is to involve them in the creation of that future. Yeah. And the more inspired they are about that future, the less you have to force them, or actually you won't have to force them at all, because they're already engaged, they're already inspired, they're already on the bus. You know, they can't wait to get it started.
Hey, Kim,
but if you just force it down their throat, good luck.
Hey,
Yes,
Kim, why don't you read that comment from Janet that she just put right there? And then
Okay.
we're going to actually go back to Bjorn and have you move into the rest of your presentation, Bjorn. But
Yes.
Janet just offered a really interesting thing. I just want to get that in before we go back.
So,
Yeah, I see it. It's very good.
okay. Janet says we cannot force people to engage in anything. We can only create an environment in which they choose to engage. And that.
Yeah, right on the money, Janet.
Yep.
So Bjorn, I'm going to turn it back to you for about 12 more minutes. Take us through, if you can, the highlights of the rest of your stuff. And then I'm going to save that last 15 minutes for an open Q&A or comments from people. Okay?
Okay. All right. So we got being times doing equals having now. And this is what beingness could look like on a scale. No, most companies, teams are anywhere on this range of emotions, of beingnesses, right? And when you recognize where the team is, where the person is at, then their behavior becomes predictable. You know? Now, when people are more disempowered, it's like an exponential curve down. I mean, they're empowered, it's an exponential curve up. This is both in terms of their growth and in terms of their results they can produce. You know? There's a myth about steady growth that it kind of looks like this with some ups and downs, slow, steady growth in most mature organizations. And then we say, oh, we have to help them grow, so we upgrade their skills, which goes up a little bit, but pretty much in parallel to the first graph. You know? But if we help them grow in their beingness, right, it creates more of a life-changing impact. And it doesn't just change the altitude, but the direction. You know, the angle of the growth changes. And as you see, as you further you go to the right, the bigger the difference becomes, right? And if I can change not just one time the beingness, but multiple times, yeah, then it kind of looks like this. One after the other creates a shift. And when you look at it together, they actually multiply each other and they become exponential. And that's how we can grow personally on an exponential graph, but also as a team or organization, which we have done again and again. You know? But we're just flying through this here, so let's go on. So the new type of leadership is knowing that people grow not just with skill. Yeah, it's people grow their beingness. And what does that mean, really? Beingness is the level of their energy. Beingness changes with the energy. And the more energy they have, the higher their beingness. Yeah. So now this breaks it down into three main sections here, right? There's disempowered on the left, empowered on the right. Yeah. So how do people get there from disempowered to empowered? So energy is low on the left. Yeah, and when you see those arrows going to the purple circle, that means when people are disempowered, they become like a sponge. They suck up the energy from others and from their environment. You know, they become energy sponges, right? When people are empowered, they become like a light. The energy goes out. You know, they have so much energy that they are able to share it and not feel diminished by sharing. Right? But we don't go straight from disempowered to empowered. Because when we're disempowered, we're afraid. We're stressed out, we have anxieties. In order to overcome these anxieties, we force ourselves against these anxieties. Yeah, and because we forced ourselves out of that, we enter now the force zone. I also call it the false alpha zone. Yeah. Why is it called force? Because we forced ourselves out of this fear zone, also known as comfort zone. And there now we feel that we got here because of force. And because we got there with force, we also feel we need to force others. But that doesn't work because other people are disempowered by force. Right? And so here you see that people who are in the force stage, also known as alphas, sometimes they give out energy and sometimes they absorb energy. Yeah, it goes back and forth. People who don't threaten the alpha they receive energy from the alpha. There's some presidents in the world right now where you can see that in action, right? As soon as that person feels threatened, they start to attack, right? Or they start to threaten those people who threaten them, right? So the energy is taken away, yeah? So it's a give and take. It's inconsistent up and down, right? And so when people start to overcome this fourth stage, they kind of get bored with it. So they enter a boredom stage. And once they get through the boredom stage and they keep empowering themselves, eventually they become so full of energy that they can give it all the time, right? So there's these 3.5 stages. And because from disempowered to get out of there into force and eventually to empowered, we have to let go of fear. We have to let go of fear, anxiety, and stress. And the way you do that is with courage, right? And that's why I call it the hero's journey. Because every time we practice courage, we're being a hero, right? Okay, good. So, as power changes, from low power, disempowered to high power, this is the impact you see in the person, on the team, on the organization. So power goes up on the left, energy goes up, courage goes up, communication goes up, directness goes up, meaning direct communication, empathy goes up, the level of community goes up. Rather, we're in it together rather than against each other, right? Authenticity, the ability to be straight, without it being taken the wrong way. Creativity goes up. The only thing that goes down is fear. Right? When fear goes down, power goes up. And these are all the benefits that the team or the person gets. But along the way, we encounter thieves or enemies. I mean, these are the big steps that we encounter. The first one is fear. We talked about that. The second one is force. But there's a third one, especially at the executive level, that we're facing. Many of my clients are facing. I call it certainty. So what is certainty? Certainty is when we think we already know it all. We cannot learn anything new. Nobody can tell me anything new. Right? That's a very dangerous place. Because when we think we know it all, we're not going to continue to grow. Now, people are going to say, yeah, obvious, blah, blah, blah. But when it hits you, you don't know it hits you. You're just there. What keeps you out of certainty is humility. And then, of course, old age, but nobody can do much about that for long. Then, when we say management actually lowers energy, and we can no longer afford management, because it lowers energy, then we have to say we can no longer manage people. We can still manage things, resources. Things are resources. Resources are things. So then you might say, why do we call it human resources? Why would we do that if resources are things, right? If we relate to people as things, then we lower their power. We cannot afford to call human resources resources. Humans, we can afford them to call resources because it lowers energy. We cannot afford to treat people like things. So my invitation is let's reinvent HR. Let's call it something else. Maybe the Human Empowerment Center, the Human Empowerment Function. Now let's create something. But then if we take management out, we have to replace it with something else. Because there's otherwise a vacuum, right, if we take management out. And we cannot grow someone just in technical positions all the way, and then all of a sudden we make them a CEO. It doesn't work that way. But we can make everybody a leader in their own area of responsibility, right? And then we have to look at, okay, now we have to grow them as leaders. But what are the levels of leadership? What are the levels? So usually in the West, we don't develop leaders through leadership training until they're on average 45 years old. That's a bit ridiculous. what if we could develop people sooner? Yeah. For example, we could start with leading yourself. Right? Leading nobody would be the basis. Nobody's a leader to begin with, hardly ever. But then, even from day one of employment, we could train them to lead themselves. Right? Would it be helpful to have people lead themselves? Absolutely, right? The next level of leadership could be leading followers. After that, more challenging would be to lead peers or equals. And then leading leaders, even world leaders. Right? So these could be the new levels. So these are some of the success stories we've had doing this. We've helped companies recover from bankruptcy and financial crisis. We helped top 5 global food company go from negative growth to 34% positive growth in a few months. Yeah, another similar company in Indonesia, we helped them recover from the global financial crisis, which was a 25% drop in revenue. And we helped them recover from that in 8 months while the rest of the market was still going down. You know, BPO side, business processing side, they almost lost an $11 million client. We helped them increase their sales by 50% in only 7 weeks, saving 800 jobs. And a German pharma company in the Philippines improved their market position from number 10 to number 4 in 2 years. Now, John F. Kennedy said, before he was assassinated, obviously, he says, I'm certain that after the dust of centuries have passed over our cities, we too will be remembered not for victories or defeats in battle or in politics, but for our contribution to the human spirit. No? And so when you go back, I would like this to stay with you, you know, when you interact with others, you know, how do they walk away? I want you to pay attention. When people walk away, are they stronger? Are they more energetic? Are they more empowered? Or are they weaker, less energetic, or disempowered? You know? Ask yourself that. And you will find ways of empowering people. And when they get empowered, that power eventually finds itself back to you. Because power, in its truest sense, is just a fancy word for energy. All right? When we plug in a device in the wall, we know that power is energy. But when it comes to human beings, all of a sudden we forget that. And we have these very intellectual, very difficult constructs of what power is. But it's really simple. And I like what Einstein says about it. Einstein says, genius is making complicated things simple. You know, power has been made incredibly difficult to understand by the greatest intellectuals in the world. Let's make it simple. Power is nothing but energy. And leadership is giving that power, increase that power and give it direction. All right, that's what leadership is. So pay attention to that when you go back. You will not just empower others, you will empower yourself in the process. Thank you very much for listening.
That is amazing, Bjorn, and thank you so much for
thank you also.
All the wisdom that you're sharing. I want to turn it over actually and ask that Sandy unmute her line, or I'm sorry, his or her line. And Sandy, it looked like you had a comment or a question. So for the last 15 minutes, we're going to just kind of open it up for reflections and questions. And then if anybody wants to join that queue, raise your hand or send me an IM message. Sometimes I miss the raising of the hand. So go ahead, Sandy.
Hi, I was just wondering, would we be able to access these slides afterwards? There's a couple of ones that I missed and I wanted to get more information.
Yep, we're going to send out a recap within the next week that has the slides. It'll have the link to the recording, which I think toward the end there, Bjorn, we got your voice into a good spot. It was much easier to understand. Gail says she feels empowered. Amazing. I do want to bring up, I think it was Heather said her company calls it, oh my goodness, Kim, where is it here?
Culture and talent.
Culture and talent instead of human resources. And so that was another comment that I wanted to bring out there.
I really love that.
Good question, Sandy. Anybody else have a burning question or comment that you want to leave us with today?
This is Kim. I noticed there was a question. I think Dan asked the question. How do you best bring power from the individual to the organizational level?
Well, there you go.
Okay, is that for me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, so you start always on the individual level and on the team level, right? So when you need to make people aware of what power is, right? And the impact they have on themselves and others, right? It starts with an awareness. And once they're aware, they start to self-correct. You know, they start to see when they have a negative impact on people. They start to see when they have a positive impact on people. And they notice it, you know. That's why it's important to be present, you know, not just to yourself, but also what's going on around you, what those you're interacting with, you know. And then as a team, when you do like a visioning, right? When you do like a strategic planning or a team building, you need to do activities that up the power, that up the energy, you know, but in a productive way. Because when you work with intellectuals, which you usually do on the executive level, right? They are very intelligent people. So it has to be done not just in a playful way, like you do with frontline employees or with supervisors. But you do that in ways that challenges them to be more authentic, to be more trusting, you know, to be inspired in creating their own future, inspired by creating the team future and company future, inspired by creating a purpose that speaks to the heart, right? And then create values that will help you create the future, not just something that worked in the past. Yeah, the more future focused you can be, the more inspired they will be. Yeah, especially if they get to co-create that future.
So Bjorn, I'm gonna actually bring in Jeff for a question, and I just want to say I really appreciate you underscoring the co-creating the future, because it is really a key to being able to do that.
Yes.
Jeff, if you want to unmute your line, we've got you ready for a question or comment. Jeff, are you there?
I think I got this unmuted. Can
you
hear
got
me?
it, Jeff. We're good to hear you. Tell us where you're calling from and what your question or comment is today.
Calling from Alabang in Manila, in the Philippines.
Awesome. Well, good to have you with us. So, Jeff, what's your question or comment for Bjorn today?
Look, what's going on right now is with my company, I'm actually hiring about 15 people by the next week. So basically, those are fresh graduates, right? And now we're talking about empowerment, yeah? So I got a couple of, actually 4 of them are key employees of mine. And my question is, what's the best way for me to have them empower, you know, these newbies that are coming? Because eventually by the next month, we would have about 4 to 5 new hires.
Okay. That's a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
okay,
the question.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks,
I appreciate that.
Jeff. And just a reminder to mute your line so that we can get Bjorn to dive into that a little bit. Go ahead, Bjorn.
Sure.
I love the specificity of the question.
Yeah. So the larger the group of new hires, the easier it will be. But my sense is you may not have done that with some of the other employees as well. So you could bring in a bigger group, right? And the way I would start with them is to really help them lead themselves. right? Most people think, especially in Asia, they think that leadership is really only for the top. But it's incredibly empowering for them when they realize that leadership is available at every level in life, at every level in the organization, and that you don't need a title to lead yourself. You don't even need a title to lead others. So if you can train them to empower themselves, right, and read my book. Well, get yourself a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon, by the way, as Kindle and in print internationally. And in Asia, I can send you a copy. But help them empower themselves, because especially in Asia, just growing up and just going through school can be an incredibly disempowering experience. Yeah. So that's how I would start.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Sorry, guys, I was on mute. All right. So I've got time for one or two, probably just one burning question or reflection. We may be able to get two. I haven't had any takers so far, so this is one of those times where I'm going to say just unmute, and we'll see how this goes. Anybody have a burning question or comment? Kim, let's see if anybody else responds first, because I know you always have got a good one.
What?
I said you've always got a good question or comment. That's a compliment.
I know.
Anybody? Okay, you know what? Let's start wrapping up then for today. I think this has been an awesome discussion with you, Bjorn, and I just want to say thank you so much for that. A quick reminder that we will send out a link to the recording, a link to Bjorn's book, and a link to the presentation so that you guys have those slides and so that you are walking away with a good product from today. I'm really excited on behalf of my own company, S&G Endeavors, to be working with ISODC. I'm bringing you a webinar in the odd months is what we're hoping for, and then in the even months we'll go for the roundtable discussion. And I think what we're going to talk about in December's roundtable, just for those of you who might be interested, remember it's the first Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. or 4 p.m. Eastern. We're thinking about maybe getting that into just one call. We'll keep you posted. But what we're going to look at is how are you using power and tapping into power at your workplace. So it will be kind of a dig deeper into power and how it's working, giving you an opportunity to talk about some of your own experiences and kind of building off of today's conversation. I figure if we're going to go out in the new year, Bjorn, we might as well take your lead and start embracing that power now and diving deeper into that conversation. So
absolutely.
I'm going to just turn it over to Bjorn and ask that maybe you give us one thing that you're hoping people will leave with today. And then, Kim, I'll ask you to wrap us up for the day by a quarter after.
Yeah, so the one thing that I'd like you to leave with really is the distinction of the difference between power and force, and also leadership and management. People tend to be confused between power and force and think they're the same. There's so many ways to express power, and power has gotten a negative reputation, has gotten a bad rap because we confuse it with force. And maybe the world also wants us to think that force is power so they can continue and get away with all the evil things they're doing in the world, right? And have us fall for it. But we can, once we know the difference, we can no longer fall for it. And once you know the difference between management and leadership, and again, people are confused between the two because at the bottom of the organization, you have team leaders, right? And then above team leaders, you have managers. And then above managers, you have leaders again. Is it any wonder that people are confused about leadership? Where does this take place? Is it at the bottom? Is it at the top? Right? And why is there management squeezed in between? So really start distinguishing that for yourself and notice that it continues to grow. Once you notice it, that you keep noticing it everywhere. You know, you notice it when other people are talking in the cafe. You notice it when people are interacting at the office or at the shop, or when you're shopping, right? How people interact with each other, or in your family, maybe your children with each other, or the teacher with your children. All of a sudden, you see that everywhere. Energy is at play. It's a give and a take. But what a beautiful world we would live in if everybody was giving energy, you know, and not taking energy, you know. That's what I'd like you to live with, you know. Let's make the world a better place by being someone who gives energy rather than takes energy.
Oh, Bjorn, that just touches my heart so much. And
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
highly recommend your book. I've read it a couple of times. Bjorn, I think you could create a mini book just of the quotes that are in this book. They're so powerful. So anyway, just a thought. But I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank you for being.
Thank you.
I think
and thank you for having me today.
The work you do is so incredible. I'd like to thank all of the participants today. I'd like to encourage you. We will share information on the roundtable session that will happen next month. I'd also encourage you to go to the ISODC website. Again, it's isodc.org. We have 2 conferences coming up next year, one in May and at Bowling Green, Ohio, and another one in September in Dublin, Ireland. So we are truly a global organization, and those are ways that you can connect in a face-to-face manner, and also be able to present if that's something you're interested in doing. So thank you, Jeremy, for guiding us today on the exciting adventure called a virtual information exchange. And have a great Friday. Have a great Friday, everyone.
Thanks everybody for joining, and this does conclude today's call. If you have further questions or comments or need any assistance, please feel free to stay after. Thank you.